What's happening, everybody? On today's show, we've got more SEC recruiting moves happening around the conference. We'll give you the latest names committing. Also, ESPN's future power rankings. Which teams from the SEC are most set up for success over the next few seasons? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. They'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, we got plenty to jump into. Let's do it. Let's go around the conference.
Out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start in the world of college football with a pretty big headline that came out this week. Bill Hancock, the director of the college football playoff, is stepping down. He's technically the executive director of the college football playoff, but he's kind of been the guy who's been the face of this whole thing. His contract is going to expire in 2025. That's when he will step down. He's 72 years old. He's the only person who's ever served in this role. And look, he's a frequent guest of the show. Every year at SEC Media Days, we get him on, and he's been a tremendous resource. He's a guy that we've talked to a lot about, potential playoff expansion and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, we're, they got that done, and we're heading towards college football playoff expansion and more teams and all that. But he was instrumental in the decision to go from the BCS to the college football playoff and then ultimately expand this college football playoff, which it will in 2024. So a tip of the cap to Bill Hancock. Again, he's always been very generous with his time. We've asked him some tough questions throughout the years on our show and different times we've been able to interview him at SEC Media Days. So tip of the cap to Bill Hancock. Here's hoping he'll be in Nashville in a couple weeks at SEC Media Days, and we'll have him on once again. But he said, my time with the playoff has been a dream come true. I cherish what I do and the folks I get to work with. I do love college football, but now I will be stepping away. So congrats to Bill Hancock, and hopefully we catch up with him very soon. A few other notes going on around the college football world, and this one on the recruiting front. Dylan Raiola, the number one recruit in the country, of course, the commit going to the Georgia Bulldogs. He announced he's going to play his senior season of high school at Buford High School in Georgia. He's already enrolled there, according to reports. He's an Arizona native, was going to high school in Phoenix. So he's moving to the state of Georgia to get ready for ultimately playing his college ball in the state of Georgia. So he's going to be one of the big-time, kids going in there to Buford High School, a roster that's already got a five-star athlete, KJ Bolden, and chose the Bulldogs over the likes of Ohio State, USC, and others. So kudos to Dylan Raiola and his family, all getting situated in Georgia, getting ready for his stint there with the Georgia Bulldogs in the near future. Over at Alabama, Tyler Buchner still competing for that starting job with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Seems like that battle's going to go on through the summer into early fall, but we do know what number he's going to wear. He's going to wear number 8. He announced the news on social media on Wednesday. And, of course, he came over via the transfer portal, competing with Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. But when you see a quarterback wear number 8, know that is Tyler Buchner in there in the mix. Other players who wore number 8 in recent years for Alabama, Julio Jones, Josh Jacobs. So some big-time players there. Buchner wore 12 at Notre Dame, so he'll be going from 12 to number 8. All right, let's get to some recruiting news. Over at Tennessee, they landed another big recruit on Wednesday, picking up a 4-star offensive lineman in Max Anderson. He's from Frisco, Texas, had offers from schools like Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU. He's 6'5", 309 pounds, an interior offensive lineman, rated as a 4-star O-tackle, the 18th OT in the country, number 201 player overall in the class of 2024. So Josh Heupel and company, they now have 14 commitments, ranked number 11 nationally, climbing ever so closer to creeping into the top 10 there. Quick note on the Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart, we just talked about Dylan Raiola. Well, they are putting together quite a recruiting class that, it's already ranked number one, but just trying to solidify that number one overall ranking. Quintavious Johnson, a defensive lineman out of Atlanta, committed on Wednesday night to the Georgia Bulldogs. 6'4", 255 pounds. The composite has him as a 3-star, but he is the number 65 player out of Georgia, the number 54 defensive lineman. And, like a lot of these guys, when they come into Georgia, you wonder, they start as a 3-star. Do they get a little bump up to a 4-star in being committed to a program like Georgia? But, of course, big-time recruiting class Georgia already putting together, just adding some depth to it. Over at Kentucky, Mark Stoops and company, they picked up a commitment on Wednesday from 3-star running back Tavani Mizell. He was committed to Georgia until this past March when he decommitted. North Carolina and Oklahoma were active in his recruitment, but big pickup there for Mark Stoops in Kentucky. Number 52 overall player, number 42 running back in the country in the class of 2024. He's the number 76 player from the state of Florida. So Kentucky initially offered him a scholarship back in May. Took a visit to Lexington this past week. At Kentucky, they now have 7 commitments in the class of 2024, sitting at number 55 in the country. Over at Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin and company, they got a verbal commitment from a cornerback from New Orleans named Bernard Causey, 6 foot tall, 160 pounds. Chose the Rebels over offers from Mississippi State, Missouri, Illinois, Colorado, and others. He's a 3-star recruit, number 926 overall prospect in the class, number 76 corner. And Ole Miss now has 13 commitments in the class of 2024. Over at Vanderbilt, Clark Lee, he picked up a commitment from 3-star wide receiver Dorian Williams. It's Vanderbilt's 3rd wide receiver commit of this class, joining Marquise Bennett and Bryson Coleman. 6'2", rising senior, and rated the number 109 wide receiver in this upcoming class. In hoops news, we got the NBA draft going on tonight. Depending on when you're listening to this, Brandon Miller on track to probably be the number 2 overall pick. That's according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Now, there have been some rumors that they may pass on Brandon Miller, may take Scoot Henderson, so we'll see. But Brandon Miller projected to go somewhere at least in the top 5 tonight in the NBA draft, so we'll see where he ends up going. And a quick note on Alabama basketball, they did pick up a name on the recruiting trail on Wednesday evening, Jaron Stevenson, a 5-star power forward in the 2024 recruiting class. He committed to Alabama and will reclassify to join the program for this season. So he was a 2024 recruit, reclassifying, jumping into the 2023 class. And Jaron Stevenson, 5-star power forward, will play for Nate Oates in Alabama this coming year. One other basketball note, former Kansas guard Chris Johnson requested a release from his national letter of intent earlier this month and reopened his commitment. And he has chosen Eric Musselman and the Arkansas Razorbacks. He is the number 52 overall recruit in the country, and comes from Houston, Texas, and had Texas and Washington as his finalists on his school. But the Razorbacks with an impressive class coming in this year for class of 2023 already. So congrats to Eric Musselman and company. And a quick other note, Georgia basketball, they will open the season next season on November 6th against Oregon at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. So that should be a fun one. Keep an eye on Georgia basketball, see what they do in the years to come. And there you have it. It's the latest news going on around the conference. When we return, we are going to touch on an ESPN article that we found over the course of the week. They put out the college football future power rankings. We're going to touch on some of the SEC schools that come in that ranking. We'll touch on that in just a second. But thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. And we want to remind you this episode is presented to you by our friends at Birddogs in just a sec. All right, coming to you from our friends at Birddogs. And Birddogs, we tell you all the time, their shorts are making you look good this summer. They got the stretch khaki shorts designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and the leg, giving you that truly sculpted look. They do the same thing that Lululemon does, but these fit way better, and you are going to love your Birddogs. We all got our hands on some recently, a lot of our Locked On hosts, And we all can't stop talking about how great they look, how great they make us feel, and the versatility. Like you need to go for a quick run, you can wear your Birddogs. You want to go on a date or go stop into the office or run errands, whatever it is, wear your Birddogs, take them with you. They are flexible. They're better than regular shorts that are made of that stiff restricting cotton. Birddogs, they've got that cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. It is Birddogs, and of course, they've got the great special going on right now. If you go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, you'll get that free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for the free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off. We promise you. Go check them out today. Birddogs, we love them. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC. And again, thank you guys so much for making us your first team, first listen every day. And shout out to our everydayers. You want to keep coming back and checking us out. Next week, we're going to have some great interviews on the show. You are not going to want to miss. We're going to be bringing you some interviews from the Manning Passing Academy and a bunch of other things. So you do not want to miss that. Keep coming back right here on Locked On SEC. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, before we jump into this, I do want to give a little background. ESPN had a piece up this week from Adam Rittenberg entitled College Football Future Power Rankings. And basically what they did was they've broken down the outlook for quarterbacks, defenses, offenses for the next 3 seasons. So looking ahead to 2023, 2024, and 2025. And, they use the FPR and all this kind of stuff. And basically they tried to project, all right, what's this going to look like in the years to come for a lot of programs across the, college football. And of course, they've got a lot of SEC teams in there. So we figured we'd jump into it. First up, they have got the Georgia Bulldogs at number 1 in their projected power rankings. No surprise there, of course. Georgia coming off that, coming off back-to-back national championships. Are going for their 3rd in a row this year. They've got their 2023 future quarterback ranking at 4, their future defense ranking at 1, future offense ranking at 3, and future team ranking at 2. Here's what they say. Coach Kirby Smart has molded Georgia in a college football's preeminent program, and the recruiting is at an all-time high level. It's absolutely ridiculous what they're doing, and then losing guys to the draft, and then kind of, not rebuilding, just reloading. And they positioned themselves as nation's preeminent defense, which should continue over the next couple of years. When you talk about losing guys like Jalen Carter and all these different pieces, they just keep reloading. And they bring back a lot of guys from last year's team. Malachi Starks, Javon Bullard, Small Munden. I mean, all these different dudes, Jamin Dumas-Johnson, Michael Williams, they're just absolutely loaded again. And you look at their 2024 commitments, they've got Ellis Robinson, Jalen Hayward, Peyton Woodyard. It's just all these stud recruits coming in. So they project Georgia at number 1, in terms of programs set up for the next 3 years of college football. Coming in at number 2, not a big surprise here. Right behind Georgia Bulldogs, they got the Alabama Crimson Tide. And here's what they say. Alabama slides off the top spot here, but they find themselves only 1 run behind Georgia. There are some short-term questions at quarterback with the two coordinator changes and all that kind of stuff. But Alabama should remain an annual title contender as long as Nick Saban is on the sidelines. Of course, they brought in 2 of the top quarterbacks this year in Eli Holstein and Dylan Lonergan. They got Julian Sand committed for next year. So even with Jalen Miller, Ty Simpson, and Tyler Buchner on the roster right now, they don't know who the starter is going to be. The future does look bright for Alabama there. And, of course, we know the defense. They bring back some star power, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Dallas Turner, but some promising young guys for the future as well. Their recruiting class was headlined by Caleb Downs, Keon Keeley, all these different pieces. So Alabama looking pretty stubborn. So can't really argue with that. If we're looking for, making a bet on teams to be the most successful in college football over the next 3 seasons, you would start with Georgia and Alabama and go from there. Number 3, they've got Ohio State. Number 4, they've got Michigan. And right behind them at number 5 are the LSU Tigers. They say LSU is never far away from a national title run because of its personnel advantages. When you look at the state of Louisiana, it produces so much high-level talent. All LSU has to do is put up that fence around the state, like Coach Hill used to always talk about. And you recruit the best in state. You keep all those kids at LSU, and you're going to be just fine. You're going to be able to compete for titles. And look what Brian Kelly did in year 1 there at LSU, winning the SEC West. The defense under Matt House looks really strong. They've got a national star linebacker in Harold Perkins Jr. They get Mason Smith back on that defensive line, who got hurt in the first game of last season. Makai Wingo comes back, who was so good for them last year. And they've got some good recruits. Javen Toviano is a guy who was turning some heads in the spring. And the big part is they got the quarterback spot figured out. They've got Jaden Daniels, and they got a really good, viable backup in Garrett Nussmeier, who sets up to be the future there as well at quarterback. They've got some great tight ends, Mason Taylor. Offensive line looks good with Will Campbell and Emory Jones going into their sophomore year. So LSU, can't argue with them being in the top 5 here, coming in at number 5 in ESPN's college football future power rank. Behind them, they put USC at number 6. They put Clemson at number 7. And let's go back to our single shot here because we got on our video, we've got Alabama up there. Clemson comes in at number 7. Penn State comes in at number 8. And coming in at number 9, how about the Tennessee Volunteers? Here's what Adam Rittenberg says. He says, the excitement of Rocky Top after 11-2 season, which the Vols finished 6th in the polls. It's at all-time high. Josh Heupel's challenge is to sustain success in the SEC. Tennessee has not recorded consecutive 10-win seasons since 03 and 04, and last had back-to-back AP top 10 finishes in 98 and 99. Heupel's offense is always going to give the Vols a chance, as they ranked 2nd nationally in scoring during the past few seasons. But what can that defense do? And that's going to be the big thing. Can they continue to recruit well on that defensive side and build momentum and continue to improve their year in and year out? I like Tennessee sneaking in here into the top 10 in the future of the next 4 years. It is very promising. Now, what is Joe Milton going to be this year? A lot of people very high on him. It's going to be imperative he doesn't fall flat on his face. But, again, the future does look bright with Nico Iamaleava coming in as one of the top quarterbacks in this recruiting cycle. So, Tennessee, they look to be loaded, but, man, focus on that defense. Get that defense back to the old days of flying around, getting after quarterbacks. That, hard-nosed Tennessee defense. If Heupel's able to do that, look out for the Tennessee Volunteers. They are going to be kicking butt and taking names. Coming on down this list, we got Florida State coming at number 10, Oregon at number 11, future SEC opponent Oklahoma at number 12. That one is of note just simply because they're coming to the SEC. So if Oklahoma is considered a team that's going to be set up for great future success over the next 3 years, something to keep an eye on there. With them coming to the SEC. Utah, they've got at number 13. Notre Dame comes in at number 14. The other future SEC opponent, Texas, the Longhorns, coming in at number 15. Again, Adam Rittenberg, basing this on the FDR, says they're a fascinating study. Look, they've taken care of the quarterback spot. We know they have Arch Manning there for the future. They've got some other great recruits that they've gotten, but consistency is key for the Texas Longhorns. Washington comes in at number 16. TCU at number 17. Kansas State 18, Wisconsin number 19, Iowa number 20. So no other SEC teams there in the top 20. Oregon State 21. South Carolina comes in at number 22 on this list in terms of teams set up for the next several years. He says even though skeptical of Shane Beamer's hiring at South Carolina, knew he got things going on the field. His recruiting prowess will follow. South Carolina's 15-11 under Beamer with an AP top 25 finish last season and some signature wins over Tennessee and Clemson. But Beamer is on that recruiting trail, doing very well, bringing in some big-time recruits. And if he keeps that up, it's going to be fascinating to watch what South Carolina does over these next couple of years. Rounding out the rest of their rankings, they've got UCLA at 23, Pitt at 24, and then coming in at number 25, it's the Ole Miss Rebels. Rittenberger says the final spot in the team rankings is always a difficult choice. There were several teams considered. Ultimately, Ole Miss's personnel clout won the day as Coach Lane Kiffin continues to collect talent through recruiting and the portal. Their offense made the FBR top 20, and the quarterback group narrowly missed the rundown. Ole Miss returns Jackson Dart, who can play through 2024. They brought in Walker Howard. They've got all these different pieces, and they continue to recruit well. Ole Miss could be one of those teams to keep an eye on to make a run in the next 3 years. So there you have it. That is this ESPN piece on college football future power rankings written by Adam Rittenberg up at ESPN. I encourage you to go check it out. But it's the future power rankings based on the quarterbacks, the defenses, the offenses, who is set up for the most success in the next 4 years. Again, no surprise, Alabama and Georgia right there at the top of the list. All right, thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we are going to touch on a little bit of the what's been going on in Omaha. Florida sitting in the catbird seat, LSU trying to stay alive. We'll touch on that in just a second. All right, roll along here. Locked on SEC. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. And we need to jump into a little bit of what's been going on in Omaha as LSU and Wake Forest are going to return to the Diamond tonight to determine which team is going to meet Florida this weekend to play for the College World Series Championship. LSU staved off elimination for a second time, and now the Tigers are right there knocking on the door with their best player coming to the mound, we expect. We'll touch on that in just a second, but Cade Beloso hit a go-ahead 3-run home run on Wednesday night. Griffin Herring, their freshman, pitched 4 2/3 shutout innings, the longest outing, and LSU forced a second bracket final with the 5-2 win over the number 1 national seed Wake Forest on Wednesday night. Earlier on Wednesday, Florida, they played another close one, this one against TCU. Gators were leading the game. They gave up the lead, then scored the go-ahead run and secured the final out at the warning track, 407 feet away from home plate. Mikey Henderson, who came in late in the game, helped preserve Florida's 3-2 victory as a pinch runner who later scored the game-winning run for Florida for Mikey Henderson. And it was his play as a center fielder that got the job done and sealed the deal. So the Florida Gators, they have advanced. We will find out tonight. Is it going to be Wake Forest or is it going to be LSU? And is it going to be a rematch of that championship series in, I believe it's 2017, between LSU and Florida? And in a very similar fashion, LSU had to burn their ace in the round leading up and weren't able to throw him in the championship series. Now, Paul Skeens is the best pitcher in the country. He's going up against Wake, but Wake is throwing their best starter on Thursday night. So if the LSU bats can get going and give Paul Skeens some run support, LSU is going to have a great chance to advance. And a few other baseball notes. The SEC, yesterday it was announced the Rawlings Gold Glove Award winners. Jim Jarvis, Alabama shortstop, was awarded along with Enrique Bradfield Jr. of Vanderbilt and Dylan Cruz at LSU. The Gold Glove teams were first recognized in 2007 and presented annually to the top defensive players from each division of collegiate and high school baseball. Enrique Bradfield had the most putouts among SEC outfielders without committing an error during the regular season. He had speed. He's tremendous in center field and helped Vanderbilt have, some of the best defense out there in college baseball this year. So congrats to Jim Jarvis. He had 7 errors in 256 chances, and Dylan Cruz had no errors on 150 chances defensively. So Jim Jarvis at Alabama, Enrique Bradfield at Vandy, and Dylan Cruz at LSU. Congrats to those guys. And a few other baseball nuggets. Mississippi State outfielder Dakota Jordan, he had entered the transfer portal on Tuesday night after a really good year with the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Well, by Wednesday morning, he withdrew his name from the portal, according to a report from D1 Baseball. So that's from Kendall Rogers. So good news there for Mississippi State fans. A guy that they thought they might lose is coming back, and Mississippi State really needs to retool some things. So good news for them that they are going to be hanging on to Dakota Jordan. And there you have it. This is the latest news going on around the conference. I know it was kind of a hectic show we put together today because we got so much going on here. And again, we'll be at the Manning Passing Academy on Friday, so we're going to bring you some great interviews next week with some of the SEC quarterbacks that are there. So make sure you're subscribed and check it out, Locked on SEC, wherever you get your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked on SEC. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. And again, go subscribe and continue to make us, or for our everydayers, continue to come back every day and check us out. We'll talk to you guys next week right here on Locked on SEC.